Welcome into another edition of the Prep Red Zone Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Michael Knight, the director of Prep Red Zone Oklahoma, and I'm thrilled to be joined with another first-year head coach. And man, this guy has been thrown into the fire, just taking the job at McLoud earlier this month. He's the head coach of the McLoud Redskins, Coleman Ramsey. And coach, we had Ryan Nolan, the new head coach at Fort Gibson on, and he was hired last month, but at least he had a little over a month before spring practice started. You were just announced early on in May as the head coach of McLoud. And, as I said, man, just thrown into the fire, your first head coaching gig, and spring ball's already started up. I got to think that, your internal coaching clock is a little sped up than a year.
There's no doubt. It's been an exciting, I'd say, couple of weeks, but it's really been like days, but it's been exciting. It's getting in there and meeting with the staff and then trying to slowly start learning the kids, learn how everything works. It's gonna take some time to get around and get used to everything, but the excitement and the energy level and things like that's what's kind of carrying me right now, because there's can be a whole lot of question marks and stress up if you look at the big picture. I'm trying to stay focused on what we need to focus on, like that day, the next 30 minutes, and instead of thinking what are we going to do in the middle of July. Hey, let's worry about today. So
well, before we get I'm eventually going to ask you about the 2022 season, but before we get into that, let's talk a little bit more about your background. I know you come to McLoud after spending last season at Norman, and then before that, a long stint at Westmore. Just your coaching journey. There was a lot of years spent at Westmore. Just talk a little bit about yourself, even before you got into coaching, where you come from and how you got into high school football.
Yeah, so I'm a graduate of Westmore. It was a unique position. I graduated in 2006. And our head coach at the time, Coach Mike Whaley, who now works at the OSSA, is the director of one of the programs there, the officials and things like that. We had a senior exit interview, and we were talking. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I was not a college caliber athlete, so I knew playing football was probably out of the picture unless I was going to go somewhere else. And so I was going to the University of Oklahoma on some academic scholarship money. And Coach Whaley said, hey, if you're interested in doing this, I think you'd be really good at it. Just let me know. And that season in 2006, I was volunteering at Westmore, helping with the offensive line and the receivers. And then I just never left. They tried to get rid of me a couple of times, I guess, but I kind of just kept sticking around and worked my way through coaching defense there for a little while. I was the co-DC for a little while, and then I was the offensive coordinator. I got made the offensive coordinator in 2015 and was that until 2021, I believe. And then last year I was offensive coordinator at Norman High. So
the move to Norman last year, I mean, after spending essentially, your entire, I mean, you graduated high school there and you just stepped right into a coaching role with that football program. I got to think that, I mean, what was that decision like to go ahead and leave a program that you were so familiar with for, over a decade?
Yeah, it was, I think a lot of us get to a point where sometimes we can feel ourselves getting complacent, or perhaps, sometimes change, while scary a lot of times, it can be a really good thing, and my time at Norman High with Coach Rocky Martin, I learned a lot under him and kind of watched how he did things. And it was a great experience for me, being around some different people and being around a different environment and a different school building. At Westmore, I was under different head coaches. I think I had 5 or so different head coaches. But to be somewhere that you had never been before and to walk into buildings you had never been before, it was a really good experience for me being around Norman High. And I think it really set me up for having the confidence to be able to go out and do something new at McLoud.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into my next thought and question. With this being your first head coaching gig, at what point? I mean, look, as I've never been a coach, but I can put myself in your shoes, and obviously, I have career goals, and my career goals, 5-10 years from now aren't what they are now. I want to continue climbing. Everybody wants to in any profession. And so I got to think that, from an early age, early in your career, you had thoughts of being a head coach. At what time did you realize, now's the right opportunity. Now's the right time for me to go ahead and step out and, pursue, a head coaching gig?
Yeah, early in my coaching career, all I really wanted to know was all the X's and O's stuff, the strategic stuff. I wanted to know all the different schemes. I want to know why some people ran certain things and what looks, they like to do certain things against. And that was, for the longest time, that was what, I was really, really interested in. But these last probably 3 or 4 years, what I've started to realize now is, that stuff, while it still really excites me, I really, really enjoyed that whole chess match part of football. I've grown now to value the position that coaches have to help young people grow. I've really delved a lot more into how to help, change their mindsets and to create team atmospheres. And everybody talks about the word culture. And that is so, is so enticing to me now, to be able to leave a lasting impression. X's and O's are great, but when you're, I'm 33 years old, it's hard for me to remember some of the games I played in high school. I don't remember scores and things like that, but I do remember how my coaches made me feel. I remember how the environment was in the locker room and in the weight room and on the field. And I remember things that those guys said to me. I contacted Coach Whaley, last week. I called a couple of my other coaches and was talking to them about this opportunity, how excited I was. And, those guys were so important to me that I called them to share that with them, So I've grown now to, that's what gets me super duper excited. It's in today's society, and it's in societies for a long time, to be able to be selfless and to sacrifice for a team. That's kind of not as cool as it used to be. And it's a great challenge to try and get these young people to give up some of themselves to be a part of something special,
One of the reasons why I love doing this is, one, it gets me, it gets me connected with new coaches, guys who maybe I've run into over the last several years, but haven't necessarily had conversations like this. And, something else that also drives it is the just amazement I have year in and year out about the coaches fraternity here in Oklahoma. It seems like, look, I'm biased. I only know Oklahoma. I don't really care about what other states do, what
Right.
their fraternities are like. But, it seems like the coaches here in Oklahoma, while, during the fall on Friday nights, you guys are trying to tear each other's heads off, at the same time, it is so supportive. It is so supportive, every other day throughout the year. Just talk about that in the connections that you have with coaches that not only you played for, coached with. That fraternity, like I said, man, it's an amazing thing to watch and witness, just the outpouring of just congratulations, we're pulling for you. Friday night, we might want to take your head off, but at the same time, we're happy for you as a guy.
Yeah, it's one of those deals. Coaching is weird because you might have things going on, but you sometimes aren't able to talk about them, with school boards and things like that. And you're not hired until you're hired. I have a group message with a couple of my buddies that I graduated high school with that are coaching too. I have a friend that coaches at the University of Memphis. One of my buddies is offensive coordinator at Putnam City. And they were kind of mad because they texted, after it came out, they're like, "Hey, congratulations, thanks for telling us." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Man, listen, I've been real busy. I don't know what to tell you, dude."
Yeah.
But my phone, when the news came out, my phone was blowing up with people that I coached with before. Even guys that I taught with that were coaching different sports. I had a couple people from Mustang that I taught with for a while that were hitting me up and just telling me congratulations and go get them. And like you said, that's a great thing. For I talked to one of my ex-coaches today who called me, is asking me about things and telling me, "Hey man, you're ready for this?" And I was like, "Whatever you say, coach." And he was like, "No, you're going to be great and you're going to do good things." So it's a very, very special thing. Like you said, even though most of the time we don't really like each other if we're across, the field from each other, but it seems like we all seem to take care of each other for the most part,
Yeah.
and I'm one of those guys too that any of those guys that I know, if they need anything, they know they can hit me up and I'll tell them whatever. I'm not one of those guys that keeps things hidden or secret. We share lots of different ideas and things, and it's a very special community for sure. You don't see it very often in most professions.
Yeah, and see that's covering this sport. It's one of my favorite things to witness, talk about, ask questions about, just because, if I were in your shoes, I might be a little more competitive. I might be, but then again, I'm not in your shoes and I don't know what it's like. And so I can see where, that common bond is incredibly strong. This is your first head coaching gig, McLoud. We asked the question about, why is now the right time? Why was McLoud the right spot for you to, take over?
As I kind of sat down there, it's not like I was out looking for 900 jobs this offseason. I was prepared to kind of come back through at Norman High and kind of keep building what we've been doing there. And the McLoud situation was just like a really interesting opportunity. I've always been a 6A guy, you're coaching the top level in the class, and to be able to go down to a smaller level, into a smaller community, is something that it was always intriguing to me. To be in a community where everybody knows everybody, and Friday nights are a big deal, and everybody comes out and watches the games, and McLoud offers that opportunity to me. It's close to my home. I'll be able to have my family go and watch me coach on Friday nights, and that was important. And in stepping into a community that it's going to be a fun deal to see a bunch of these kids. There's a senior class that's got some talent in multiple spots, and I was as I was looked farther into it, I think it's one of those deals in 3A, that's a class that constantly is up for grabs, where if you have a good team and a good senior class, and you're able to kind of build a commitment amongst each other, you can make it run. And that's very, very exciting to be able to, again, that community involvement and just having that atmosphere. The 6A1 and 6A2, those atmospheres are awesome and great. Coaching a bunch of more wars that we always won, coaching in the crosstown clash and things like that, and seeing that many people at games. But I'm also really excited about being the show in the community, that, if we can get things rolling and have some success, that it's gonna lift the entire community, and it'll be a big time deal. And that's something that I'm very, very inspired to do.
You mentioned, being in 6A1 and 6A, your entire coaching career, and now, you take over this program, 3A football. You mentioned it's competitive. I mean, it's a very competitive class. Talk about that. How do you see that transition going from, a school, a program that is one of the largest in Oklahoma, to, small town Oklahoma, small school? You're going to have a lot of guys playing both ways, things like that. How do you envision that transition after, years and years of 6A football now going to 3A?
Yeah, it's gonna, what's great about this is it puts a lot more onus on the coach sometimes to be smart with your kids. In the 6A level, you're able to, well, this kid plays just offense, and this kid just plays defense. And I've always been one of the proponents in my coaching places that, if a kid's a great athlete, he's one of the best football players, we want him on the field. I don't care if he's the starting quarterback or not. If he's the best athlete, he needs to play as much as we can. And, in the lower levels here, you have to do those things to be successful. And it's going to be a fun opportunity to be able to kind of adapt my thinking of things, and to try new things that I had not had to worry about necessarily at the 6A level. There's different issues no matter where you're at, about having depth and things like that. But it requires the coach now to be a little more creative about how you do things, and where you put your kids and how you teach. We're not spending, a 3-hour practice just coaching offense. You've got to be smarter with how you teach things. And that's on the coach to do a good job. And to me, one of the things I always like about, installing an offense or installing a defense is what can we do to make this simpler for the kids? And if it's not simple for the kids, we're just not going to do it. That's one of the things I've kind of prided myself on is being a good teacher. And so I think that'll really carry over in this aspect. And it's something that sounds really, really fun to me. So
What are some of I mean, we mentioned spring practice, it's already begun. Team camps, passing league, 7-on-7, like that's all coming up in the month of June. What are some of the hurdles that you see, first? I mean, taking the job literally the same month that, you're opening up spring drills. What are some of the hurdles that, you personally are going to have to jump over, leaping all the way into this new job?
yeah, I'm really having to fight myself times from getting too worried about we got to do this, we got to do this, we got to do this. Over the years, the last couple of seasons, I started to realize that spring ball is a really awesome thing that lots of other states don't get to have.
Yeah.
And instead of just trying to install every play imaginable, which we could always do, instead let's focus on a few things and install the base parts of what we're doing. And then more importantly, this is a great time to install the mindset of your team, how you play football. To me, that's much more important, especially early on, is you can install 7 different run schemes, but if your kids don't play the game the way that you want them to play, they're all worthless anyways. So I've had a little bit of had to pull back the reins on myself about we got to get this in, we got to get this in, we got to get this in. And then I go, no, we don't. We don't have to have all that in. Let's have a few of these things in, and instead worry about how we're going to play the game. And if we can get that installed in the spring, we're light years ahead of where we can plan to be. In the summer and in scheduling dates of like you said, when we're going to do 7-on-7, when we're going to do team camp and things like that. It's been a new challenge to kind of plan that out. And to coordinate with other coaches in the area. But, we're going to try and stay with the things that they've been doing for this year. And we're going to go to Noble team camp, talk to Coach George the other day. There's a bunch of teams that'll be there for that. We're going to continue with some passing league stuff with Hera, and there's 10 teams at that. So we've got some stuff that was already been scheduled. Coach Rusty Hall did a good job of scheduling these things out. And so we're going to roll with that schedule for now. And I'm taking some stress off of that and not worrying so much about that and just saying, hey, let's take it, like I said, a day at a time. Let's take it a drill at a time in some cases,
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that, the, aspect of spring ball, and, there's some states that don't have it. And, Prep Red Zone's a national company. And I talked with some of our other writers in other states, and, they mentioned, they don't have spring practice. They don't have, school 7-on-7. And I'm like, what are you guys doing at this time? Are you absolutely going crazy? Because I mean, I'm ready to get on a football field at this point. And so, I think that we all learned that a couple years ago with the COVID pandemic, and we didn't have spring drills and we didn't have team camps or anything like that in 2020. And I think that, I know I, for one, appreciate this time of the year a little bit more. And the more I talk with coaches, they have they always appreciated this time of the year, but at the same time, after COVID, after the pandemic, after not having it for a year, there's a little more, graciousness that we have it, back to normal.
Absolutely. Like you said, that we had the COVID year, we didn't have any type of spring contact. Last year at Norman High, I got hired after spring ball had already started. And so I was in another situation there where it was kind of like, hey, let's just do what we can and kind of and get what we can get in at this point, and then we'll worry about the summer about getting more and different things in. So I've had a really good opportunity to have to deal with those two different types of scenarios. So it makes this one a little less stressful to not have to worry about, oh, we got to do this. It's different now being the head coach, obviously, because now I'm not worried about just what the heck the offense is doing. Now I'm worried about what we're doing on defense and what are we doing with this kid. And so there's a much bigger scope of things for me to think about, But like you said, the fact that we didn't have it, and even for me, the fact that I didn't really have it last year, has made me appreciate just to be able to do football things. Whether it's, even things, small things like pursuit drill with defense, you know what I mean? Things that you take for granted sometimes when you don't get to do them.
Right.
Those can be a big part of your program if you do them the right way,
Yeah. Looking at the 2022 season, spring drills underway. The summer months are right around the corner, which means August is right around the corner. This season is going to be here before we know it. For any McLoud fans that are watching, and any of the football players or the parents or anything like that are watching, and they want to get to know their new head coach, what is 2022 McLoud going to look like under new head coach Coleman Ramsey?
Well, we are. What I've grown to learn is that the team sometimes takes on the personality of their coach. Your position group will take on the personality of your coach. We had our first parent meeting last night at McLoud, and I already had some of the coaches saying, "Gosh, dang, dude, I think you said excited about 50 times in the first 2 minutes." So they may be right. I may have to look at a thesaurus for a new word for excited. But we're going to play with some emotion. We're going to fly around and we're going to have fun. And, football is a game, so it's made to have fun, and that's one thing. We're going to be, obviously everyone wants to talk about being tough and physical and things like that. But I think, to me, if we're going to be able to play and to care about each other, you've got to be able to have fun and do it. You've got to be able to celebrate with your brother when things go the right direction. And then when things go the wrong direction, you stand up and you stand tall, and you keep moving forward. That's one of our slogans, really, is that we're going to keep chopping. When things go good, keep chopping away at that tree, man. You got a good swing on it, took a big chunk out of it. Awesome. Get back to work. And then conversely, if you took a big swing and it hit a knot and it shook your hands, guess what? Pick that axe back up, take a big old swing at it again, man. So that's something that we're going to be proud about. We're going to push ourselves to be excellent in the things that we do. And I think the excitement level is really, really high right now. So it'll be a very important thing to keep the momentum going. But that's one thing I want people to, when they go to Friday night in McLoud, Oklahoma, and they watch a football game, they're going to see some people that are that love each other and care about each other, and they have fun doing what they're doing with each other.
Well, I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see what this new brand of McLoud football looks like starting this fall. You mentioned the team camp in Noble. I'll be there for at least one of those days, so it's going to be my first chance to see you guys in action before the summer months hit, before the 2022 season hits. And Coach, like I said, man, congratulations. Happy for you, and looking forward to seeing what you guys do this fall. Thanks for joining us here on the Prep Red Zone Coach's Corner.
Thank you, Michael. Had a great time, man. Appreciate it, brother.
He's Coleman Ramsey. I'm Michael Knight. Stay tuned every single Wednesday. We're doing this in the month of May and June, so stay tuned throughout the month of June. We'll have more first-year head coaches every single Wednesday here on our Prep Red Zone Oklahoma YouTube channel. For Coach Ramsey, I'm Michael Knight. This has been another edition of the Prep Red Zone Coach's Corner.